Well, I want to say that I believe in a young earth. Now, I know how crazy that sounds. You know, a lot of people are going to be saying Pastor Jim's gone off the deep end here. Well, before I get into defending my position, I want to first off say that this is a legitimate area of dispute for Christians to have within the church. When I say that I believe in a young earth, I am not saying that if you're a Christian and you believe in an old earth, that you are exempt from the promises of God. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that I believe in a young earth. And when I say that, I know how crazy it sounds because of the high levels of funding that go into pushing the evolution dogma. I want to say that if you don't believe in a God, then you have to believe in millions and billions and maybe even trillions of years, because without a God who creates the universe, there has to be billions and billions and billions of years. There's no way to ever have a young earth, and to even suggest it is frankly insane. However, I do believe that there is a God. I don't believe that it's just an out there type of God, but I believe that it's the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ who is intimately involved in this world. I believe that God is not a part of the creation. Scientists have been able to teach us correctly that the universe is time, space, and matter. We also know that at some point in time, the universe began to exist. And we know from the law of causality that whatever is in effect must have a cause. Therefore, the cause for the universe must be something that is outside the universe, which we know began to exist at some point in time. And that this something that set the universe in motion has to be outside time, space, and matter, not affected by time, space, and matter, but all powerful enough to be able to set time, space, and matter into motion. I believe that this makes God what a philosopher may call a necessary being, a being that absolutely must exist in order for there to be the universe. There has to be a God. There's no way around it. And for God to be so powerful, to be able to set the whole universe into motion, I do not believe that there are any limitations on the power of God. I believe that God is not constrained by what normally constrains us. God is not constrained by our limitations in space. He is not constrained by our limitations in time. And He is not constrained by the limitations of the matter that makes up our bodies. Let me say again, if you don't believe in a God, if you don't believe that God is all-powerful, then you have to believe in an old earth. You have to believe that a weak God that is not all-powerful would have to use billions and billions of years in order to create the universe. This weak God is the type of God believed in by the current Pope Francis, who came out recently in a statement saying that God is not all-powerful. God is not capable of anything. He has to use billions of years in order to create the world, for He could do it no other way. I do not believe that God is constrained by any limitations in His power. I do not believe that God is constrained by any limitations in His being. These are important differences in presuppositions. And I'm making such a big deal about this because if you come up to this with the wrong presuppositions, you are going to be forced into the scientific explanation of the universe that constrains itself unfairly to the limitation that there cannot be a God. I do not believe that it's proper to remove from possibility the high probability that God exists. I do not believe that it is scientifically fair or scientifically sound to remove from the possibility that God exists. And yet, in our modern scientific discourse, we are told that we have to remove God from the equation. I do not believe that it is fair to categorically remove God from the equation. I do not believe that it is fair to categorically say that there cannot be a God. I believe, based on the evidence, based on the law of causality, based on the philosophical understanding of the necessary being, that there must be a God who is outside time, space, and matter, but who can be able to control time, space, and matter. And I believe that the historical evidence shows that this is the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, who died for the sins of the world on the cross, who rose again on the third day from the dead. Another scientific impossibility that I believe in, that Jesus was born of a virgin, that Jesus rose from the dead in a permanent resurrection, not a resuscitation in which his life was renewed for a short time, as we can see in hospitals today. Not a resuscitation of life, but I believe in the resurrection of its life. That unlike the resuscitations of Elijah the prophet, unlike the resuscitation of Lazarus from the dead after he was dead for 4 days, I believe that Jesus was resurrected. Well, isn't that scientifically impossible? I don't believe so. I believe that all scientific possibilities are only made possible by the working of God. I believe that God not only created the universe, but that he also created the laws, and that all scientific laws exist at the will of God, that all scientific laws exist by the pleasure of God. And so the resurrection code is just a scientific, God-given law that will be made reality for every person who's ever lived, whether we are going to be resurrected to everlasting life or whether we are going to be resurrected to everlasting destruction in hell. It's just a law that we haven't discovered yet fully, because God hasn't yet fully decreed this law into existence the way that God decrees and maintains and sustains all scientific laws that exist. A young earth is possible because God is all-powerful. But what about the appearance of age? Well, first of all, you have to understand a little bit about the theory of relativity and how God's stretching out the universe after the initial creation plays into the fact. Remember this, the Einstein's theory of relativity shows us that time is not constant throughout the universe. But when God created the Garden of Eden, it's not like he created a flat plane of dirt and said to baby Adam and baby Eve, here, you better plant these seeds because you're going to need to grow some crops quick. It wasn't like that. I believe that God created a mature Adam later when he created a mature Eve. And I believe they were created in a mature Garden of Eden. You know, I imagine that if there were redwood trees there, that there would be redwood trees that would have the appearance of being, say, 1,000 years old. Well, they were created just a minute ago by God. But when Adam was placed in the Garden of Eden, it looked like a fully mature earth. It looked like a fully mature paradise. There are also some videos that Answers in Genesis puts out about starlight and time and how the theory of general relativity explains how that all works out. I'm not a mathematician, I'm not a scientist. I'd refer you guys to check out the work that has been done by scientists in this field to be able to figure out how all the math works. That is, after all, how scientists work. No one scientist has all the answers, and so I'm sure there are going to be a lot of critics of this video who will try and play Stump the Scholar with me, and the second I have a question that I can't fully answer to their satisfaction, they're going to assume that I don't have anything together at all. But I refer people to look through all the science provided by great men and thinkers like the many scientists who work at Answers in Genesis and make their research publicly known. And I'd also like to highly recommend the seminar series by Dr. Kent Hovind, which has been very foundational in terms of much of my thinking. And his seminars are freely available through YouTube, and I would highly encourage you to not make judgments about the theory of the earth being young without first having a chance to look at the evidence yourself. And it's my prayer that you will treat the evidence fairly and rationally, and always remember that I believe that this is an area in which Christians can disagree on, and yet it is also my prayer that we would respectfully disagree with one another and not throw stones at each other simply because we disagree over what is really a minor issue.